Hey, it is Ed, former Hells Angel, California, and I'm chatting with Staxx.
Welcome to this episode of Chatting with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got former one percenter, Ed. What's up, Ed?
How you doing, Bill?
I'm doing great. Things are good.
Good
Thank you
deal. Good
for taking
deal.
the time. I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on the show.
So, where were you born and raised?
Pennsylvania, small town out about an hour outside of Philly. Pretty much raised there my whole life. Just typical small town stuff, nothing special. Running around with the older kids and playing stick fights and rock fights growing up.
Were you getting into trouble at all?
Like I said, it's a small town. There wasn't a lot of trouble. There's no like real street gangs or anything like that. Motorcycle clubs weren't really around my area, so it was little things, throw rocks at cars or through a house window or something little like that. Like cops maybe came to my house one or two times. My buddies rapped me out because they got caught first, but nothing ever really, nothing too crazy.
Where'd your life go from there?
Well, I grew up, you know, watching the old cheesy 60s, 70s biker films, and, you kind of get a feeling that, hey, that's pretty cool. I wouldn't mind doing something like that. When you're 10, 12, 13 years old, you don't really think that's what you're going to do. But I guess it's already always in the back of your mind, and I get through high school and I always said I was going to move to California. I landed a job that had a place out there. So first opportunity I got to transfer out with the company, I took it and there I went.
And what was your first introduction to motorcycles out there?
Oh, out there? Well, my first introduction to motorcycles, actually, I won my first motorcycle in a raffle down in Philly on South Street when I was right, probably about two years before I moved out there. So I won that and rode it around for a year, pretty much just by myself, and sold it, moved out there, and just as soon as I saved up a few bucks, went and put some money down on a new Softail, and there we go.
When you first went out to California, did you associate with any clubs?
No, when I first went out there, I didn't know, I knew there were clubs out there, but that really wasn't my scene that I knew of. And then the more I'm out there, then you start seeing them, and then you're like, see a couple guys, or you're driving your car down the freeway, and all of a sudden one or two guys, because out there you can, cut lanes and stuff like that. And I just thought to myself, man, I want to be able to ride like that. I've been riding for a couple of years, but not like that. So I got that bike, and I just went out in the roads and just started hauling ass, and trying to ride like that. And I started riding like that, and then you start getting around.
Did you start hanging out at bars, and is that where you first came across like introduction to these people?
Funny thing is, I had a girlfriend of mine. We were just like friends or whatever, and she was working at a bar. She knew I started getting intrigued with the club life and stuff like that. So one day I come home from work. Here she has one of the guys, one of the local Hells Angels guys, at our place to meet me, and I started talking to him, and he was cool, man. He was nice, and we just sat there and talked for probably 2 3 hours, and then I think that was about it because prior to that, I was looking for people to ride out there. I moved across the country. I don't know anybody, and I went to the local honk chapter, and I would try to walk up and start introducing myself to people like, hey, I'm Ed from blah blah blah. I'm out here, and they were just ignorant. I was like, you're not welcome at all. I'm like, they didn't even want to bother with me. I was like, screw you guys. I never go back to a meeting again.
You need an inside person to introduce you to people, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So what was it like after you get this introduction? Where do you go from there?
Well, I met this member, and you know, he said he's going to be out. Palm Springs always had a big motorcycle rally, and he said he'd be out there to go look for him. I was like, all right. So I, went out, rode out, and found out where they were at. I don't remember the name of the bar there in that town, but it's not there anymore. They condemned it and tore it down probably because we all hung out there all the time. But yeah, I met up with him and he recognized me right away. He's like, "Hey, come on over. Let's go get a bite to eat." And then he started introducing me to guys. And that night, he said, "Hey, why don't you just spend the night here?" I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, stay with me and my girlfriend." Pull off, park the bikes. Yeah, I go in. He goes, "Go take your stuff in and wash up." Wow, he pushed my bike in the garage for me and everything. I was like, "Wow!" I was like, "This is this is like a brotherhood, That's how it should be."
Yeah.
I wasn't even anybody. I barely knew the guy.
From there, where does it go? Do you go back home and you're like, "Damn, I really like hanging out with these guys"?
Yeah. I met a bunch of guys, that weekend. I mean, I don't know, 40, 50, 100. I don't know. I don't remember. I was kind of overwhelmed my first time meeting, more than just one guy. And so I just started, we exchanged numbers and he's had me come over and hang out with him at the clubhouse on his, nights there. And we just started hanging out and getting close and I was meeting more members and getting around. And then, I just told him, I said, he said, "Man, I really like this." And I was hanging out. It was probably a good, I don't know, a year or two, and I started expressing interest to him. I said, "Yeah, I'd really like to do more," but I'm like, "I don't think I'm ready for, the commitment for your thing, but I'd like to do more." And lo and behold, there's a big startup of Red Devils all over the nation, probably all over the world, I guess, at that time. It was a big explosion, I guess, to help try to grow the club. So he introduced me to the guys that were starting the local charter near me, and I went down and joined them, and like we started. I think it was probably about April 14th of 2002.
When did the Red Devils first come to be? Was it 2001?
2001, 2000, whatever. Yeah, it might have been whatever it was, but it was 2 weeks prior to the Laughlin River Run, the famous, infamous Laughlin River Run. And I'll never forget that because we started out and we must have had 18 or 20 guys, at our first like one or two churches. And then the Laughlin River Run's coming up. So, and I should have thought something was funny, but I was the only one of us that went out there for our charter of Red Devils. So I went out and I was hanging out with, our sponsored chapter there, Orange County and stuff. And I felt like I missed out on something because I wasn't at the casino that night when it happened. But now that I think about it, I'm thankful I wasn't there. That was bad.
When you start hanging around with the Red Devils, do you have to prospect for them?
Yeah, they had their core group that were, buddies for since childhood. That they were all, they were starting. There was probably about 12 or 14 of them, something like that. I don't remember exactly, but they were starting it. And then they had, me. I was the very first prospect, and then a couple others, came right in after. But then, that week after Laughlin, I think we went down from like 18 to 20 to about 12. Then the following week we went down to about 8 or 9. Then another week there was only 6 of us left because
Why were they dropping off?
the big casino brawl out there, and I mean we were out there to support them. There was actually a lot of Red Devils out there, too, with that, behind the scenes and even in the scene there. I guess they just figured that wasn't for them, and the 6 of us stuck around and figured, this could be fun, I guess.
So how long are you with the Red Devils for?
Prospected for a few months only, and maybe 3 or 4. But I was with those guys like every minute, just because I had to be. I was an outsider. I wasn't from around there. I didn't know any. I didn't grow up with those guys, so I just wanted to be around. Made member and was member for probably a year or so, and then it came time to like the whole goal of our specific Red Devils charter was to start a HA chapter there. So when it came time, when we got our time in for that, then we were ready to switch over. Went to our sponsors and said, "Hey, we're ready." And they said, "You sure?" They said, "Yeah, we're sure." And they said, "All right, here you go. You're a hang around now."
So wait, so you have a full patch, right?
Yeah.
As a Red Devil, do you have a position? Are you an officer at all?
Well, in that case, we all were because there's only six of us at that point, in the Red Devils. So yeah, I don't know. Usually the outcast gets stuck like treasurer or secretary with the deal with the crap. The other
Yeah.
guys don't want to deal with.
So what's that process like when you're a full patch member and you get knocked down to hang around again?
Well, I guess it was kind of exciting because you're taking that big step. So even though you're just a hang around, you're still above a full patch Red Devil. You know,
You're with them.
yeah.
And how long is that process for?
Well, luckily, because we pretty much did our hang around stint as Red Devils, it was only they got to do their official duties and announce to everybody he used to do hang arounds and whatever. And so it was only I think like 2 months, and then we were able to get our bottom rockers for prospecting.
Now, what was that like when you finally get your bottom rocker?
Well,
And
first night we all get it. We all get it at the same time. And we all had so little sewing kits in our pockets. So as soon as you get them, you got to hand stitch it on real quick. And they're like, "Hey, we're going out. Let's go get that on." But you got to have it on good enough so you don't want to come off or someone just can't pull it off. So we're all sitting there, trying. Your fingers are bleeding, trying to get that thing stitch on so you can go out and celebrate. We go out, and we were maybe at the bar 5, 7 minutes. I don't even think half the guys even got a beer yet. And I guess there was a guy there that had some bad history with some of the guys in the club, and he went and called the cops right away, even though nothing happened. He just seen them out there. He called the cops and said that there were problems caused or something like that. This was my first night of the prospect. Next thing you know, there must have been 20 cop cars, probably 40 cops, helicopters flying around. They come running out with a shotguns holding our heads. Get on the ground, get on the ground. Like, what the hell did we do? There was no fights. Nobody even yelled at anybody. It was just like, it was just crazy.
first night as a
First
prospect.
night, yeah.
And what happens? They pull the guns on you, and
Well,
did they question you or anything?
I think at that point is because our Orange County guys, they were kind of low key for a couple of years just from past instances and stuff like that. So it was like a big shock to see a big group out like that. So they just went all for it. They were just wanting to run everybody's IDs and check out who they were and whatnot. And the funny thing is apparently my license was suspended. I didn't know it from an accident I was in. I guess out in California, and you get in an accident, there's some form you have to file or whatever to do this. And I had an attorney taking care of it. I guess that slipped through the cracks.
Yeah.
So cop comes up to me. He's like, "Hey, are you so and so?" I'm like, "Yeah." Like, "Is that your bike over there?" I'm starting to think something's up. I'm like, "Yeah, that's my bike." Because obviously he knows it. Runs the plate. It's mine. And he's like, "Did you ride in here tonight?" So I know. I was like, "Oh, no, no." I said, "One of the guys from out of town, he's on it." I said, I jumped in the car with somebody else, just quick thinking, luckily.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's like, "All right, that's good to know because your license is suspended." I'm like, "Oh, all right, whatever." I can't fight him on that right there on the spot. So I'm like, whatever. I didn't know. And then, everybody takes off, and then I get a ride back from somebody else, leave my bike sitting there because I know they're waiting for me. We
Yeah.
go back I get somebody to take me back about 3:30 in the morning. I jumped on it and took off and, ran like crazy just in case they're still watching.
Is there any other situations that stand out to you?
I mean, there's a lot of fun stuff in between. I mean, I actually, I don't know, a lot of guys kind of complain about the prospecting time. I think back, that's probably some of my best and most fun times. I
Yeah.
mean, it depends on who you are and the charter you're going through. And one of the things that our charter did, which it sounded like it's going to be a horrible idea, but it turned out to be a good thing, is they wanted you to go visit all the West Coast charters on your own time. So,
Yeah, but you're
you know,
always with them, right? And
yeah,
you're at work. So how do you juggle work and
dude.
trying to do all this at the same
And,
time?
and I had a little baby girl, you know,
Oh,
she was probably maybe one or two, maybe, I don't know. She was young. And I, I, I actually looked forward to going on some of the runs because I go look up at some of the other members. Because when you're a prospect and you go hang out with other members from other charters, they treat you pretty good usually. You take them out and go out and have a good time. They're like, "Hey, come on back here." You go hang out in the room with them, and you don't get to take a little nap here and there. So I was like, I look forward to that kind of stuff. because I didn't
Yeah.
get any sleep otherwise. Running around with your guys at home and then trying to go to work and raising a baby. It was tough. I can't believe I did it.
Yeah, you're trying to juggle all this stuff at once, right?
Yeah.
Were there times where you had to pick between different things?
Well, really didn't have a choice when you're a prospect. You know what I mean? Like you got to go. And luckily with my job, I was there for a long time when I transferred out and stuff. So I had a lot of time off and or I was in management, so I could switch with some of the other guys, and they knew what I was doing. So they, one or two, they would cover for me, and I'd cover for them sometimes. So it was a struggle, but I did it.
I've spoken to a lot of different people, and some people said they had to go stand by the bikes while these guys would be partying. And was it like that too?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it depends on who you are. Some guys are just content. I'm just going to stand at the bikes and that's it. And they're going to do their thing. And yeah, you got to. I'm not saying I didn't do that. Of course I did that, but I tried to do other things. I tried to more mingle with the guys a little bit. When I could. Of course, you got your duties. Make sure things are taken care of. Security's on board, and can't have anything happen to anybody. But I try to be around the guys and hang out with them as much as possible and get to know them because that's really what it's about. And that was the one thing about the charter as in they wanted you to go hang out with the other guys. And sometimes they didn't even want you to they didn't even do with you on the weekends when there wasn't a run. They'd be like, go find another charter to go hang out with. Take off and go bounce around, and it was a good time actually.
Did you ever meet anybody that you didn't like when you were hanging out with these different charters?